one of the easier things to replace in a vertical or upright piano action, as well as a grand piano action, is the hammer rail felt. It makes a difference, and as that felt gets packed down and worn, it gets a little bit noisier. The hammers, as they fall back onto the hammer rail cloth, it can make a little bit of a thudding noise as that felt gets hardened down. Here I've got an upright action. It's been taken out of the piano, and we're looking here at the back of the action. The part would actually be facing the strings, so you can see the hammer rail cloth. And right as you can see right here, this part is the hammer rail cloth. Now I've got several of these hammers off from this upper treble section of the piano, and you don't necessarily have to remove the hammers in order to change the hammer rail cloth, but it is easier. But you can raise the hammers up out of your way, but there has to be some way to hold that up, and sometimes you can have somebody take I've got here a aluminum rod, and just something that's long enough to hold the hammers up, and so you can have somebody hold that up while the felt is being replaced. But if you have all the hammers out, it's a little bit easier. Now there's different sizes of hammer rail cloth depending on what type of a piano is this, because this is a full upright piano. As I measure this hammer rail cloth, it's 1.5 inches, which is the size of our upright piano hammer rail cloth. The grand hammer rail cloth is a little bit thinner, or not as wide, I should say, and then of course the spinet hammer rail cloth is the thinnest, and that's usually for the compact actions, such as consoles and spinet pianos. So you want to make sure you measure that to make sure you order the correct size of hammer rail cloth for your specific piano. Now when you to replace it, like again I said, it's fairly simple. You would just take, it's usually glued on, so you would take one end of it and can remove it. Sometimes it comes off a little bit easier. If it doesn't come off real easy, you can use a knife to cut at the glue, and then just make sure you scrape off any of the remaining glue residue that's left on the hammer rail. Once you've removed all of the hammer rail cloth, then you would take your new hammer rail cloth. Here we've got new strip of hammer rail cloth. This is the same size as the old, and you can see it, and you can see here, maybe in the video, there's indentations here, and that's where the hammers rest, and have over years have made indentations in the felt, and that's where they get hard and packed down and get noisy. Okay, so that's the reason for replacing it. So once you've got the old felt off, you want to glue the new felt on, and again the hammers need to be, and here I'm going to show you. You can hear the noise that makes. Okay, and so replace that's the noise that you're going to get, which replacing that can make a smoother sounding action. So when you go to glue the new felt on, to get the best results, you're going to want to glue just the bottom edge. Okay, probably the bottom fourth or third of the width. Okay, so this is 1.5 inches, so maybe the bottom half inch or something like that of the place where the hammer rail cloth is going to go. And what that does is, because most of the hammer, as it hits, most of the weight of the hammer shank is hitting on the upper portion of the hammer rail cloth, and you can see this one wasn't glued on the top, and the reason for that is that's going to give you a softer sound. Okay, if you don't have glue behind the main part of where the hammer shank hits, it's going to give you a little bit softer sound. So just gluing that bottom portion of the where the new hammer rail cloth is going to go. Of course, this doesn't come off very easily, but what you'll do is you'll glue down here. Okay, and then once you have that glue down, you can do one section at a time. Again, it's fairly easy. Just put some glue on there. Of course, you want to scrape all this old remnants of felt and glue off with a razor blade or some kind of a knife, and get that nice and clean. And then put your glue on. You can spread it a little bit with your finger, so you don't want it all oozing out. You want it nice and smooth in there. So, and then just place your felt on. Just give it a little pressure. PVC-E glue is the best glue to use for adhering the new hammer rail felt, and we sell that in our store also. So that's the best glue to use. So once you've got it glued along the whole length of the hammer rail, then just let it set and dry. You can even let the hammers go back onto the new felt once it's in place. The PVC glue dries fairly quickly, but just give that a few hours to dry. Now, the other felt that we can see here that's fairly easy to replace is the spring rail felt, and that's this piece right here. Okay, it's got the hammer rail springs right here, and what that does is that's the felt that softens the sound from the damper levers. Okay, so because the damper levers come back and the damper wires hit that felt. Okay, so again, that's another thing. That's not as significant of a difference because sometimes the damper levers don't even hit the felt when the key is played, but you might notice some difference by replacing that. And again, it's an easy one. And the same thing here. You want to remove the old felt, and again, it's best to glue on the bottom edge of it. And again, that's not as crucial because this isn't as much of an impact on the damper lever as it is on the hammer shanks. So you just pull that off, put some glue on there, spread it over the surface of where you want it to be glued. Put the here we have new spring rail felt, and this is 3/4 inch wide. If I measure this one, you can see it's 3/4 inch wide, which is the width of the new spring rail felt. Possibly you'd have a piano with felt that's not quite that wide, so then you could cut the width of it to the correct dimension for your piano. And again, that one goes down the entire length of the action as well. So again, replacing those two felts is a simple thing to do, and especially the hammer rail felt makes a big difference on an older action that's had a lot of use, and helps to quiet the action.